Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you've all had lunch, so hopefully this isn't too difficult and our heads can get back into the swing of things. I'd like to talk to you all today about the dark world of SMS phishing kits from an insider's perspective. No, that doesn't mean that I do it. Before anyone panics, I'm not texting you and engaging in this. I'm Jake Sloane. I'm the Threat Intelligence Manager for a threat intel company called WMC Global. You've also got my Twitter up there. Just ignore Elon Musk and it'll be fine. Any questions, if we keep them to the end, I'd appreciate it because there's quite a lot to get through. I'll be hanging around after the end as well. If you can't ask your question or come to speak to me, just come and find me. I've got some stickers as well, so that normally encourages people to talk to me. So the way the talk will work, I'm going to start talking very briefly about sort of how SMS actually works, so the technology behind the scenes that we don't really see and understand. Equally, I don't really understand it, so please don't ask me any other questions. This is what my boss normally talks about, and he's not here. And then we'll move on to actually looking at the phishing kits themselves and how these kits target SMS and what we as defenders can actually do about it. And we move into sort of talking about disruptive takedowns. So how can we stop this sort of fraud wave, if you like? How can we do more than just play whack-a-mole with domain names? So looking at SMS delivery methods. So in the network, we call it peer-to-peer. So this is when you send a text message from yourself to somebody else. How you send a text message. It's known as peer-to-peer messaging. The next type we have is called application to person, or ATP. We've got two types of this. So we've got a short code and a 10-digit long code, or 10DLC. Short code messaging is usually 5 to 7 digits. It is highly regulated. So that's something we need to consider at this point. There are vetted campaigns. If you want to run a SMS campaign over short code, you have to have that campaign vetted by the servicer. It is run through a direct bind into the carrier network. So it's not sent sort of from a mobile. It goes straight into AT&T, giffgaff, O2, whoever, to actually deliver this to users' endpoints. There is very little fraud occurring on short code. Note the word very little. There is some, but it is minor. There is also no spoofing of short codes. Short codes are not alpha tags. So when you get a text message and it might say Santander, HSBC Bank, that's normally a short code. That's normally an alpha tag, sorry. Short codes can't be spoofed. Alpha tags can be spoofed. Talking about 10-digit long code, so 10DLC, this is slightly different. This is ironically 10-digit numbers. They're provisioned through CPaaS platforms, so things like Google numbers, bandwidth numbers, TextNow, TextFree. They provision these numbers for people to use. It is, again, not peer-to-peer messaging. We also have a system called email to SMS. This is a absolutely horrible net system that someone created, and we wish they hadn't. It's abused by threat actors constantly, and it is, as the name suggests, you can send an email, it will be delivered on a mobile phone. You can normally tell at the top of the screen, so it doesn't come from a number, it comes from an email address. But this is known as email to SMS. There is very little sort of security on this end. Huge amount of fraud takes place. There's some stuff we can do, but it's not easy or simplistic. And the last type of delivery method is what's called toll-free numbers. So in the US, we have prefix such as 800, 888, 877. In the UK, it's 0800. I'm afraid I don't know if there's an Irish equivalent. I'm sure there is. But these numbers are provisioned by carriers to send text message, and they can send hundreds of thousands per minute, depending on the text message provider and the carrier relationship as well. So this Gucci graphic looks a bit confusing, but it's essentially how an SMS traverses a carrier's network. I do want to point out this is US based, all right? So it does differ around the world. This is how the US network works. So at the bottom, you've got your little person. Note the difference between an SMS and an MMS. So an SMS is just going to be your plain text. Your MMS is going to be your sort of multimedia message. You can still send basic text strings through MMS. They work differently. Threat actors are aware of this. They are handled differently by the networks. You can see as it goes through the network, you've got your gateways at the top. Each gateway has its individual filter. So if you send a 10DLC SMS, it gets picked up by a filter and gets blocked. Send it through a different thing. Send it through a shortcode. It has a different filter. The filters do not talk to each other. Again, yay networks. It then moves in through the filters into number blocking. We have sort of DNS blocking, IP gateways, mobile security systems, etc. And then it lands on a user's mobile phone over to the right there. So there's a number of steps which do take place with an SMS. There's a number of ways round it. This is publicly available information. Threat actors understand this network. They understand how it works. If they need to get round it, if a URL has been blocked, they know how they can utilize the issues, if we can use that word, with the filters to get their SMS delivered to an end user's mobile phone. When it does land on a user's device, there's a number of things that a user can then do to try and prevent this moving forward. So there's reporting functionality. I don't know if you've heard of 7726. It spells spam on a phone keyboard back in ye olde days. 7726 is run by each mobile operator. It collects spam messages. They're sent through a blocking system. Threat intel companies like ourselves get access to this information, and we can then feed that back into the telcos to put into their filters. It feels really stupid to forward a message to 4 numbers, 7726. Nothing happens. You go, why do I bother? It does do something. We do appreciate it. It does help. You've got apps out there. We've got something called Spam Response. There's loads of them out there that you can report. Apple now has a functionality. If you get a message from an unknown number, there's a big report junk button. This is called 7727 because why not? Essentially, that reports the message back into the system. It gets analysed and we can push it back through those filters. So we do encourage people to take action. You get SMS or emails, you forward it to places, you click report phishing, whatever. You can do the same with a text message. Report, report, report. It does help, although it might not feel like it, and I do appreciate that. So not only do we have different SMS sort of sending abilities, we've also got different delivery methods. The most common one, the one that everyone thinks about if you say text message and mobile, is a SIM card. That's obvious. We know what a SIM card is. We've also got CPaaS platforms. So things like Twilio counts as a CPaaS platform. Nexmo, Vonage. These guys are direct bind again into carriers. They have quite unique access. They have unique abilities to provision phone numbers for campaigns without literally sending a SIM card. So that's another way that things can work. I forgot to click my little mouse button. We've got something called free app supported carriers. These run through ad support systems. So places like Text Free, Text Now, you can send text messages for free. They run through ad generation. They utilize CPaaS platforms in the back end. So they will utilize Twilio, Nexmo, whatever, but they buy their access through ads because people use it for free, because nothing in life is free, is it? You've got open source software. So on GitHub, you can find Python packages that send text messages and C++ programs that send text messages. Again, most of these systems will just utilize an API into a CPaaS platform, but it does mean that you can plug and play SMS capabilities into programs, into packages, etc. And the last one is e-marketing tools. As the name suggests, your marketing team has the ability to mass send text messages, and we all sit there and go, "Oh my God, you didn't do that, did you?" They use these systems. Again, they mainly use CPaaS platforms to do this, but it's another way of interfacing. So rather than accessing Twilio directly, we give them sort of a nice SMS marketing systems to utilize this. One of the other issues we've got is a lot of these systems use 10 DLC, as I spoke about at the beginning, those 10-digit numbers. They are a direct bind into a carrier network. There's very little analysis of the messages that's just sent through 10DLC. There's a lot of resellers on the market, so a lot of these app-supported carriers are giving you the ability to use numbers which they've bought from a CPaaS platform, which a CPaaS has been provisioned through a carrier. Equally, they might resell those numbers to another carrier. We see lots of reselling of numbers. So when you get a text message and you report it and we go, oh, it belongs to 3 goes, oh, actually, I sold that to Twilio. And Twilio go, oh, actually, I sold that to this company. And this company says, oh, actually, I sold it to this guy. And it's just an endless chain of disgusting. So 10DLC, a number of issues. Reselling is a big one because no one ultimately holds responsibility for that endpoint. So talking about some emerging SMS trends, I think the word emerging is probably a bit rough in there, but some SMS trends we are seeing at the moment. Pig butchering, I hate that phrase, I think it's horrible. It's talking about romance-based SMS scams. So we've all heard of sort of these emails that sort of lure you in with, oh, I'm your girlfriend and you should send me some money. We're seeing it over text message now, where actually you'll start a communication system and people will start sort of forming these relationships, forming these attachments to people. It's just social engineering, essentially, via SMS. A big one at the moment, hi mum scams. I don't know if people recognise these. Mum, I've dropped my phone. Can you text me on this random number? It's my friend. These are ultimately mule accounts. I'm going to speak a bit more about these later. These are a massive trend. We've seen them in the UK. We've seen them in Ireland, Australia, America, not so much. Don't quite understand why not in America, but it will come eventually. But we are seeing these hi mum, hi dad, family scams, as we like to call them. We've also got CEO scams. These are quite clever. These are quite interesting, actually. We are seeing threat actors finding people when they newly join a company. So they're using OSINT to sort of do this work. They're looking at LinkedIn. They're seeing when people go, oh, I've just started a new position. They will then message them from pretending to be the company's CEO or someone very high up in the company going, can you just pop out and buy me some gift cards? Because everyone's CEO always asks this. The amount of gift cards I've got for him is mad. But they will do this and go, can you buy me some gift cards, scratch the number off and send it to me, and they'll then resell this online. The reason we put this in here is because it's going through SMS. In your organisations, do you have an ability for a employee to report an SMS? Probably not. You might do, but it might be quite convoluted. If you're a new employee, you're going to want to impress. If the CEO is texting you going, can you help me? I'm in a meeting. I need you to pick something up. A lot of people will do it, and then they'll be too embarrassed if they realise it was a mistake to actually say anything because, oh no, I've just joined the company. I don't want to be fired. So yeah, CEO scams. It happens on emails quite a lot as well. I think threat actors are appreciating now that SMS is maybe the way forward because there's harder reporting channels. People are less likely to know what to do with it. We also have the traditional SMS phishing campaigns. I appreciate these aren't Irish specific, but we certainly see a number of Irish-based brands in SMS phishing, just with the traditional text link straight to a mobile phone. We're also seeing callback scams, as we like to call them, where you have to interact with the SMS before it will send a link. This is causing us a bit of an issue because people will send us a clearly malicious message going, this is your bank. Did you just deposit £8,000 and send it to America? If you didn't, reply no. And they send it to us and it's like, well, I can't do anything. I haven't got the link. Because you need to interact with the fish. So they are able to target humans that only interact with it, will they then get the link. So they're quite clever as well. Rather than these ones, we can do a lot of work on these. We've got the IOC straight there in the message. We don't need to engage with it. So when I say phishing, we're talking about credential phishing. And I say, oh, we can do something about it. Well, what can we do? And what is a phishing kit I keep talking about? So a phishing kit is the threat actor's source code, if you like. It's a collection of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP as well. I know it's rendered server-side, but in a phishing kit, we can capture that information. We capture databases, TXT files, The reason we have these is because when a threat actor goes to deploy a phishing site online, they
mess with your screen.
Oops. There you go. When a threat actor gets a domain, the last thing they're going to do is start recoding the phishing site from scratch every time. No one does that. We all have a dev and a prod environment. They create their phishing kits, their phishing websites, their exfiltration methods, their images, their resources. They get their phishing domain and they just dump a zip file, extract, and they have a live working phishing site. This takes under a minute. If you see a new domain getting stood up, a threat actor can deploy a phishing site in easily under 1 minute. Okay? Phishing kits are really important for us. They give us a huge amount of visibility. Ultimately, they masquerade as a real website. So we're going in there, they're pretending to be a legitimate website. They are highly customizable. Fantastic this, I love this. They are highly customizable phishing sites. It's not the same thing. You can't have one phishing site and it be identical to another one. Each controlling threat actor will add different configuration, different options. They might want a different dollar amount. They might want a different image. They might want a different password, a back-end page, a different landing site, a different lure message. It's still the same phishing kit. It's just a different configuration. We can all have the same Ford car, but we can have different wheels, different colours, different number of doors, but it's still a Ford car. And that's what makes phishing kits so appealing to threat actors. Oh, they're also really cheap. You can pick up phishing kits really cheap online. You can repeat them online. You can put them in multiple places, but ultimately they are really cheap to buy. They're widely available as well. They're not difficult to collect. We're collecting them at work. I've never paid for one, obviously. So they're widely available. You can get them on Telegram, you can get them on Discord, Facebook, we find them being sold on. You can get them offline. There's lots of places that just pick them up online. Threat actors will give them away for free to get a bit of clout online of, oh, you should trust me, look at my coding abilities. So why do we care? Why do we care about phishing sites or phishing kits and phishing sites? I've said, oh, they're cool, they're cheap, they're customizable. Here we've got a MyGov. This is Australian government. It's a phishing site. Just trust me on that one, it is. On the face of it, every single MyGov phishing site will look basically the same. All right, there might be the odd little line here and line there, but ultimately it needs to look like the same website, doesn't it? We're trying to masquerade as a legitimate service, so every site will look the same. But if we look at a phishing kit, we start getting a visibility of the back end behind it. What makes this thing run? If I asked you all to create a website that had a black background and a yellow circle, you'd probably all do it very differently, different variable names, different ways of using it. Some would use Canvas, some would use an image, some would copy it from here, some would go onto ChatGPT and cheat. But there would be everyone would do it differently. And that's the same for threat actor. We can utilize those uniquenesses to understand what's going on. So this here is the phishing kit behind that MyGov site. We can see there's a number of PHP files. We've got a config file. We've got me.php, prohacker, because I'm good with my leet speak, prohacker.php down at the bottom. So let's take a look at one of these files. So this is the prohacker.php page. I don't know if you can read that back. I do apologise if you can't. Should have been keen and sat at the front. Here we've got the PHP elements of the website. So we actually see the message body being built. We've got threat actor attribution. It clearly states my Telegram ID is prohacker. Easy, isn't it? You've got username, passwords. This will be built up dynamically when a victim enters credentials into the phishing website. You've then got the send function. You've got a weird looking array at the bottom. We'll get to that later. And at the top, you've got two requires. You've got require config.php and require me.php. So if we have a look at config.php, as I said to you, they're highly customizable. In here, we also have a Telegram exfiltration method. So we now have the bot API key. So this gives us more ability to have a visibility into these phishing sites. How are they sent? Who are they sent to? What information are they gleaming and gathering? We've got a chat ID. We could potentially reverse engineer this to understand what chat they're sending it to on Telegram. Inside me.php is me. It's me, the threat actor at bizlogger at myyahoo.com. Never heard of that domain. But we've now got another IOC. So we've gone from a simple basic, here's a MyGov phishing site. I've now got Twitter names, threat actor names, email addresses. I've got things I can work with and attribute this campaign back to an actor. So what can we do about it? Kit kill chain is what we're calling it inside, and I hate that term, but my boss told me how to put it. Don't zoom in on it then. Kit kill chain. Oh, I've killed it. There you go. So different ways that we can have disruptive takedowns. Yeah, can you not hear me? I'm not shouting. Thanks. Is it on? Is it on? Is it on? Hello? Oh, fantastic. So we're talking about the kit kill chain. So how can we target these criminals and actually make their lives harder? I'm here to annoy people. Obviously not you guys. I'm here to annoy threat actors. I want to make their lives harder. I want to make it more difficult for them. Taking down a URL is easy. If you have a phishing URL, you can take it down. Dump it on Twitter. Make it public. People can take down a URL. It's not that difficult. Contact the web host, contact the domain name, services. We can get them taken down. I'm not saying don't do this, all right? I do continue to do this. There is systems, there's procedures. People are very good at it. It's very quick and easy to do most of the time. But we should continue to take down the domain. But we need to go further. We need to look at the code behind the scenes. This here is a piece of HTML from a campaign known as the Compact campaign. It targeted Office 365. It was highly successful and it continues to proliferate online to this day. It uses 3 quite interesting and unique web resource calls. It's almost a CDN for a phishing site. We have a media endpoint. This is hosted on a third party. It's a stood-up domain. There is nothing legitimate on this site. It hosts the media elements for this campaign. It hosts the images, the background images, the CSS, the JavaScript. If you can take this down, like we did, if you can take this down, it will kill every single phishing site utilising this CDN from the Compact campaign. Underneath it, we have B. B hosts the exfiltration code, compact.php, hence the name. This hosts the PHP exfiltration method. If you can take this down, all the other sites utilising this CDN, as I like to call it, will be killed. So rather than taking off one site, let's take down as many as we can with each hit. Obviously, don't take down the last link. That's a legitimate redirect link. But it's really interesting. These sites are stood up with 3 basic configuration options for where that CDN sits. So here's that media directory that I spoke about. The CSS, the fonts, the images, the favicon for the Office 365 phishing site. Here's the B link I spoke about. You can see there compact.php. You've also got an error log. You've also got logs. And if you open logs, you've got emails.txt. So not only can you take it down, you can also perform victim recovery. These threat actors don't care about PCI DSS or your data protection policy. They will quite happily store stolen usernames and passwords in .txt files online. So not only are you protecting your organisation, you're protecting other people from being phished, you can also protect some poor data controller when they realise that all their emails and usernames and passwords were just online exposed. We had a really interesting campaign targeting a client's HR system. So this wasn't targeting consumers, it was actually targeting employees in the HR system. You can see there we have a constant base URL of formspree.io. This was a third-party form creation website. It stood up as the exfiltration method. We went to Formspree, they're a lovely company. We spoke to their CEO. They do legitimate work to help people make forms easily online, like threat actors. And we said, look, this is being abused, take it down. They took it down. They also gave us the email address of the user account that created it, and they blocked it. They blocked the IP address the threat actor is using. The threat actor tried to create 2 or 3 more Formspree campaigns. We took them down. They've never used Formspree again. So we are making threat actors' lives harder. Going one step further, investigating that threat, we can take action. So that's taking down URLs. Let's talk about phone numbers. We're talking about SMS stuff. What can we do with phone numbers? Obviously, when you get a SMS scam, it all comes from a phone number. You can report that phone number, 7726. When you text it, it will say, thanks. Who sent this to you? What's the phone number? And you can send that phone number to 7726, and they will then investigate it and perform action on it. So we can take down sending numbers. But again, let's talk about one step further, one step deeper. We have phone numbers in messaging campaigns. So we can see here the hi mum scam again, or hi ma this time. Send me a text on. We need to take down the sending number and that second number as well. It is equally used in fraud. The reason they have two numbers in these campaigns, because the initial number is used as a spam. They have SIM boxes, they plug the SIMs out and they just pound out hundreds of thousands of messages. Telcos detect this, they would take down that sending number very quickly, but the secondary number is less reported, it's less known. When you get your communication with a threat actor, they don't want to lose that communication. So that secondary number stays online for a lot longer. So we want to report both of these numbers. We've also got a call, Wells Fargo, call my number, take down these numbers. Because what we do see is the same numbers being reused in multiple campaigns. So we've got Wells Fargo using that 2265. We also have a Bank of America using exactly the same phone number. So threat actors will reuse their own infrastructure. We've got to take it down. So we're taking down the sending and those numbers in that call to action. It's not just text messages where we see phone numbers. We have a WhatsApp business account here. This is targeting ICI Bank in India, delivering malicious APK files. WhatsApp business account has a really simple way of reporting a malicious business account. Again, you can also report this number to the telco provider as well. So it's not just text messages that we see abuse. We see abuse of phone numbers everywhere. This is Kit Intel. This is our internal system where we store our phishing kits. It gives us an easier visibility to search on things. What I want to talk to you about is phone numbers within phishing kits themselves. So this is a Twilio number. Again, I'm not calling out Twilio here, but the CPaaS platforms are also abused within systems. We can see, welcome to $name. Your transfer verification is random opt. This is actually a fake bank. I don't know if you've heard of fake banks. These are, again, a scam campaign that threat actors will create fake banks to try and lure people in with, you've won £1 million. We've all had those emails. They create fake banks to actually show you that there's an account with £1 million in it. So that you think you believe it. And they set up fake 2FA and everything. And that's what is actually occurring here. What starts to get really interesting is when you start looking at overlaps between phishing campaigns. So we've got here a Twilio SID. So this is sort of an API account SID ID. We can take this SID ID and we can look between all the phishing kits we've collected. We can see we start having overlap between all these banks, or fake banks if you like. And this makes us start understanding why disruptive takedown is so important. You're not just taking down one campaign, you're able to take down many other campaigns that you might not have visibility of, but they are out there. Think of it like spidering. Taking one down is all interconnected ultimately. So taking down phone numbers. Taking down bank accounts. Whoa! Beautiful. So, it looks fine on this screen. So we're talking about bank accounts as it flickers around on screen. We're seeing a number of campaigns, these hi mum scams. These hi mum scams text you, mum, I'm texting off a friend's phone, I dropped mine on the floor, I smashed my phone, I've lost all my pictures. They use a number of different lures. Go away, stop flashing at me. When you communicate with these threat actors, they usually move to WhatsApp. I don't quite understand the reason behind it. I think it's free, they don't need to pay to text things around. If you blink, you can see it occasionally. Hey, I know that. These campaigns ultimately lead them to saying, can you send me some money? Mum, I've dropped my phone, I need £250, can you send me some money? And they will send you bank account details. They are highlighted in blue. Actually, I'll zoom in. They are. Ta-da! These bank account details are mule accounts, as they're known online. These mule accounts can be collected in a number of ways. Either they're compromised accounts that threat actors are selling, or they're victims of a scam themselves and don't realise it, or they're just out to get a quick 10 quid. We can report these to banks. It's really trivial in the UK. I don't know how Irish banking works, I'm so sorry. In the UK, the sort code is really easy to work out which bank owns that account. We can go straight to the bank and they can perform fraud monitoring controls on that account. I'm not saying they take them down and out of action. It could be a victim, ultimately, that we're dealing with. It could be a vulnerable person who doesn't realise their account is being muled. But we can gather this intelligence from the threat actors with a bit of communication. We can work with the banks and we can perform fraud monitoring on there. Once we have visibility of these accounts, if the bank is willing to utilise the intelligence, which most are, I've got to give the credit to the banks, they are really good at taking this intelligence. They can then look for victims of the scam by looking back at historic analysis of an account, and they can perform victim fund recovery as well. So if someone might not even realise they've been scammed, utilising this proactive approach, we can protect people's funds. Cool. The next one I want to talk about is API keys. We've spoken very briefly about this earlier. We have visibility of API keys within these phishing kits, normally used as exfiltration methods. Here we have a Discord API key, quite obviously. We can work with Discord. Discord are really good at working with us. They have a CTI team. They're very open. They've got good visibility into their own network. We can give them an API key and they can perform controls on that, checking victim logs, shutting out users, locking down accounts. The phishing kit is your source of evidence. It's not like going to the FBI and you've got to show them a huge amount of loss and controls and all this other evidence and here's a person's mother's maiden name. The phishing kit is your evidence of fraud on that API. You've got Telegram. They're a little bit more fun to work with. We can do some work with Telegram. It is harder. I'm not going to pretend to you that it's as easy. Telegram are a little bit more snaky. But we can utilise this intelligence to do CTI work, overlap pivots, and we can sometimes get them taken down depending upon how they've been set up. But having this visibility is really important. Here's Nexmo. Nexmo is that CPaaS platform, very much like Twilio. It's abused within kits. They're able to utilise access into accounts and sending out mass SMS. We can reach out to Nexmo. They're really good. They're really responsive. Here is an API key which is being abused. Please can you take a look? Can you take it down? Take it out of action. We're cutting the threat actors off for their ability to send and proliferate. Here we have a MyTappy. It's a third-party WhatsApp API, essentially. So it's using WhatsApp to send, but it's having a little wrapper on the front of it, so you can send via API through WhatsApp. Again, working with them, we can get stuff taken down. It's a disruptive takedown approach. We're not playing whack-a-mole with domain names. We're taking a domain down, but we're taking down the threat actor infrastructure behind the scenes to make it harder for them to re-stand up their campaign again. This one's quite obvious. Talking about emails. How can we do email takedown and where do emails come from? Wow. So not only thinking about sending email addresses, they're quite obvious. We've seen them earlier in the presentation, sort of my API. I love it flashing on all your faces, sort of strobe. It's great. We can also take down threat actor email addresses. So when the screen decides to update, we can see here we have a ex-Robotus email address. There you go. That worked. This is a email address owned by a threat actor. So not only are we taking down that sort of user's email address that might be receiving the logs, we can potentially take down the threat actor's email address, which is running these campaigns. So it's making it harder for the threat actor to talk to his clients, if you like. We're sort of severing it as they run. And what's the benefit of doing this? Well, here's that ex-Robotus Gmail account. You can see it's in over 2,000 kits we've got access to. If we can stop that threat actor from communicating with clients, running that as his advertising name, whatever, if they have to rebrand constantly, it's going to annoy their clients and they're going to move to another threat actor, taking down every opportunity we can. What have we got in here? So here's a sending email address, grace2logs@gmail.com. We're talking about email takedown, but we're also thinking about how we can utilize the visibility within phishing kits to understand the threat more. So we have this grace2logs. We've got it. We've taken it down. Woo us! What else can we do? We can investigate where else that email address has been seen. So we can see within here that grace2logs has been seen in 4 other phishing kits. So taking one email address down, 4 kits disrupted. If we have a look in one of these kits, we can see that grace2logs is also affiliated with a secondary email account. The reason threat actors do this is that redundancy thing. We have it at work redundancy. Threat actors like it too. They will say, well, if one of my email accounts gets taken down, I don't want to lose all my victim logs, so I'll send it to 2 places. So we can start with one email address. We can do a bit of pivoting, we can do a bit of hunting, looking through our phishing kits. We've now got a second email address we can affiliate back to that original threat actor. We can take down the infrastructure we didn't even know existed before we had it. So we can start really getting into the bones and annoying threat actors. Taking down Rax2log impacts 6 kits. So that's 10 kits in total, 10 different domains, all impacted by 2 basic takedowns. Oh, here we go again. Stop it. I spoke to you earlier, right at the start, about that array item. You remember we saw it at the bottom of that initial HTML file? I would say here it is again, but it's not, is it? We found this in an anti-bots file. So anti-bots are a system where threat actors put in protections in place to prevent people from seeing their site. And we can see that email address coming up again. We can actually decode this. It's a very basic decimal decoding. It obviously decodes to an email address. This is sort of what we call a backdoor, if you like. These threat actors will backdoor their phishing kits to try and exfiltrate logs out of kits they don't even control or own anymore. This was a really trivial example. Some are quite complex, some are really well hidden. This is, again, another good disruptive takedown place. It's not only the obvious email addresses, it's sometimes the more hidden email addresses. You can see taking that down actually impacts over 2,000 kits. This exact same email address has been seen in 2,000 phishing kits online. And last but not least, talking about anti-bots. Anti-bots are a process that block people they don't want viewing their phishing sites. So you're thinking about IP blockers. They block IP ranges. We've got host names. We've also got geographic regions. So if it's an Irish targeted phishing kit, they don't want people from the US seeing it. They're not going to be victims. Let's hide a whole country from viewing my site. There's commercial options available. This is one of those phishing logs. You can see it literally blocked whole ranges of IP addresses. If they think it belongs to a threat intel company, if they've seen some weird traffic from an IP address, they'll just block it. They don't care. It's not like you're panicking that I might block a victim. They'd rather block a victim and keep all of the security researchers out than the other way around. You're blocking whole host names, Fishtank, DreamHost, NetPilot, Crawler, Facebook, Message Labs, whatever. They'll block everything if they can. We've also got some more really funky text at the bottom. This should stand out to everybody. It looks weird, doesn't it? You can decode that. It's another secondary hidden exfiltration method. They're all over the place. Again, taking down those email addresses. We've also got commercial options available. Yeah, I'll skip that slide then. Come on. Play ball with me, please. There's commercial options available. You can buy anti-bots. This one is was Killbot. It's an option you can go on, you get an API key, and they will do the IP blocking for you. So you just connect the API key and off it goes. This is what I like to represent internet as. I'm not really a Superman or Batman. I think it's Gotham City, is it? I don't know. But taking down these killbots, what does it do? Well, at the moment, this is the internet. No one can see the phishing sites. They're remaining hidden. They're remaining anonymous. Take down that killbot key, and all of a sudden, all the scanners everywhere can see them. Those phishing sites are popping up all over the place. The visibility is enhancing. We can see the sites because we're taking down their protection methods. Now, am I just standing here rambling on thinking, wow, it sounds great, but does it work? It does work. We have had successes with this. We have taken down email addresses belonging to Google, Yahoo, Outlook, Hotmail, and Yandex. We've taken down phone numbers, carrier numbers, Twilio, TextNow, Google numbers. We've taken down API keys belonging to Discord, Telegram, WhatsApp. We've taken down over 110 Killbot API keys. These companies are responsive if you know what to deliver to them. If you have the motivation, you can do this disruptive takedown. Don't play whack-a-mole with domain names. It's constant, it's boring, and it's annoying. Actually annoy the threat actor. Slow them down, prevent them standing everything up. And that brings me to the end of my disco presentation. I thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.